The HOA president stood in my driveway with police on the phone, while my pregnant wife screamed in agony inside our home. Those 14 minutes of delay would cost Simone her life. I was the CEO of a multi-million-dollar insurance company. I'd negotiated billion-dollar deals and managed crisis after crisis. But none of that mattered when Darlene Richter decided that Section 4.7 of the HOA bylaws was more important than my wife's life. What Darlene didn't know? My daughter from my first marriage wasn't just FBI. She was Special Agent in Charge Naomi Whitfield, head of Orlando's Public Corruption Task Force. And her first investigation would be the HOA that killed her stepmother. Have you ever dealt with a power-hungry HOA president? What would you do if your neighbor tried to control your property during a life-or-death emergency? Has an HOA ever fined you for something ridiculous? Do you know someone who's been bullied by their neighborhood board? This Karen thought she controlled the entire neighborhood, until she learned what happens when you kill a federal agent's family member. Stick around to see how one woman's cruelty during a medical emergency became a federal corruption case that would expose HOA tyranny across Florida. If you've ever been terrorized by an HOA Karen, drop a like. This story will satisfy every ounce of justice you've been craving. Now let me take you back to the morning everything changed. The morning I lost the love of my life because someone decided rules mattered more than mercy. The phone rang at 10:47 a.m. on a Wednesday. My assistant knew never to interrupt board meetings unless it was an emergency. When she burst through the conference room door, her face told me everything. Simone was in trouble. I grabbed my phone. "Terrence, something's wrong with the baby." Simone's voice came through broken, gasping. "The pain is unbearable. I can't..." A scream cut through the line. I was out of my chair before she finished. "Call 911, I'm coming now." The boardroom of Whitfield Insurance Group disappeared behind me. Quarterly earnings, investment strategies, shareholder concerns, none of it mattered. My pregnant wife needed me. Nothing else existed. Downtown Orlando's glass towers blurred past as I sprinted to the parking garage. My hands shook as I started the Mercedes. 23 minutes. That's how long it took to reach Cypress Grove Estates on a good day. I had to make it in 16. My foot hit the gas. I-4 opened up before me. Mid-morning traffic lighter than usual. 85 miles per hour. 90. The speedometer climbed as Simone's labored breathing crackled through my Bluetooth. "Terrence, please hurry. Something's really wrong." My insurance executive brain cataloged everything I knew about pregnancy complications. 38 weeks, 3 prior miscarriages, placental abruption risk, survival window, 10 to 20 minutes from symptom onset. We'd waited 8 years for this baby, 8 years of hope and heartbreak. The nursery was ready, walls painted soft yellow, crib assembled. Name picked out, Hope, after Naomi's late mother. The baby who would finally complete our family. 15 more minutes. Just 15 minutes, and I'd have Simone in the car. Florida Hospital Orlando was 4.2 miles from our house. 6-minute drive with lights and sirens. We could make it. "Stay with me, baby," I said into the phone. "I'm almost there." Conference calls worth millions disappeared from my mind. Board presentations that determined company direction meant nothing. The only numbers running through my head were minutes and miles. 16 minutes if traffic cooperated. The 911 dispatcher's voice came through my second call. "Sir, if you can transport safely, get her to the hospital immediately. Time is critical with placental complications." I saw the Cypress Grove Estates entrance ahead. The gate arm rose. Our house was 3 turns away. I could already see our driveway. That's when I made the decision that Darlene Richter would use to justify letting my wife die. I double-parked across my own driveway to save 10 seconds. 10 seconds that became 14 minutes of hell. Have you ever had a moment where every second felt like life or death? Where you made a choice that seemed obvious at the time? Tell me in the comments what you would have done. I hadn't even killed the engine when I saw her. Darlene Richter, HOA president and neighborhood enforcer, already walking toward my car with her phone in hand and that look on her face that said she'd found her next victim. My car door flew open. I bolted toward the house. "Mr. Whitfield." Her voice stopped me. "You cannot park there." I spun around. "My wife is in labor. I need to get her to the hospital." Darlene stood directly in my path to the front door. Pressed khaki pants, polo shirt with the HOA logo embroidered on the chest, lanyard around her neck displaying her title like a badge of authority, clipboard clutched to her chest. She looked exactly like what she was, a woman who'd retired at 58 with nothing but time and a burning need to control something. Anything. 6 years as HOA president had transformed her from neighborhood volunteer to domestic dictator. "You're in violation of Section 4.7, she said, consulting her clipboard. "Obstructed sightlines. You need to move your vehicle immediately." From inside the house, Simone's scream pierced the morning air. "Are you serious?" My voice cracked. "That's my wife. She's dying." Darlene's expression didn't change. Not a flicker of concern. Not a moment of hesitation. "Then you should have parked in your garage like the covenants require. I'm calling the police to have you towed. I'm on my own property. You're in violation." Her thumb hovered over her phone. "Move your vehicle or face a $500 fine and immediate tow." 4 minutes had passed since I'd pulled into the driveway. 4 minutes of arguing with a woman who cared more about sightline violations than human life. Inside, Simone's screams had changed pitch. Higher, more desperate. I knew that sound. Something was catastrophically wrong. "Please." The word came out broken. "I'm begging you. Just let me get to my wife." Darlene raised her phone to her ear. "I need police for a property violation and threatening homeowner." My blood went cold. "Threatening? I haven't touched you." She turned slightly away, speaking into the phone. "Yes, the homeowner is being aggressive and refusing to comply with HOA regulations. I need immediate response." Neighbors appeared at windows. Phones came out, recording, but nobody moved to help. What would you do in this moment? Push past her and risk assault charges, keep arguing and waste more time, or comply and lose precious minutes? Drop your answer below, because what happened next haunts me every day. I made my choice. I shoved past Darlene, didn't touch her, just moved around her rigid body, and sprinted for my front door. Behind me, I heard her voice change from bureaucratic to triumphant. "Officer, the homeowner just assaulted me. I need immediate response." She was lying, and she was smiling. I saw it in the reflection of my door's glass panel. That cold, satisfied smile of someone who just won a power struggle. She was actually smiling while my wife died inside. The moment I opened our front door and saw Simone collapsed at the bottom of the stairs, I knew we were in a race against death. And Darlene Richter had just stolen our head start. Blood pooled beneath my wife's body. She tried to get downstairs to meet me, collapsed halfway. Her eyes found mine, desperate and fading. "I'm here, baby, I'm here." My hands shook as I grabbed towels from the bathroom, pressed them against the hemorrhaging. I called 911 again, this time for a medical emergency. "Ambulance dispatched," the operator confirmed. "ETA 8 minutes. 8 minutes. We were 4.2 miles from Florida Hospital, Orlando. In normal traffic, an ambulance makes that run in 6 minutes. Simone's blood pressure was dropping. I could see it in her pale skin, her labored breathing. My insurance background had taught me enough about medical claims to know exactly how bad this was. Placental abruption, survival window, 10 to 20 minutes from symptom onset to delivery. Maternal mortality rate, 1%. Fetal mortality rate, 15 to 20%. We were already at the edge of that window. And outside, Darlene was still talking to police about my parking violation. Sirens approached. Finally. But they weren't ambulance sirens. Police cars. 2 officers appeared at my door, hands on weapons, eyes scanning for threat. "Sir, we need you to step outside." "My wife is dying," I screamed. "Placental abruption. Where's the ambulance?" The lead officer finally looked past me, saw the blood. His entire demeanor changed. Into his radio. "We need that bus now. Critical OB emergency." But the damage was done. 8 minutes had passed since I'd pulled into the driveway. 8 minutes because Darlene cared more about a driveway than a life. Simone's eyes were closing, her breathing shallow. The towels beneath her soaked through with blood. "Stay with me," I whispered. "Hope needs you. I need you." The paramedics arrived at 11:17 a.m., 14 minutes after I'd pulled into my driveway. They took one look at Simone and their faces told me everything. "We need to move now." But the lead medic's eyes met mine with an apology. That look medical professionals give when they know the outcome is already determined. On my front lawn, as they loaded my wife into the ambulance, I heard Darlene's voice behind me. "Officer, is he going to move that vehicle, or do I need to call a tow truck?" I turned. Our eyes met, and something in her expression shifted. Just for a second. Like she'd finally realized what she'd done. But it was 14 minutes too late. Have you ever watched someone you love slip away while bureaucracy stood in your way? The helplessness, the rage, the desperation. Tell me you understand what those 14 minutes felt like. The ambulance doors slammed shut. Sirens wailed. I followed in my car, the vehicle Darlene had deemed more important than my wife's life. By the time we reached the hospital, Simone had already slipped beyond saving. The ambulance doors slammed shut with Simone inside. As the sirens wailed away from our home, I knew I was chasing a ghost. She was already gone, and Darlene Richter had killed her. I followed in my Mercedes, the police having finally cleared the violation. My phone rang. Naomi, my daughter from my first marriage. "It's Simone." My voice sounded dead even to my own ears. "Get to Florida Hospital, now." What happened? Naomi's FBI training kicked in immediately. Professional, controlled, already asking the questions that would matter later. HOA president blocked me in the driveway. 14 minutes. Called police on me instead of letting me help Simone. Silence on the other end. Then, "I'm getting on a plane." "Dad, don't talk to anyone about what happened. Not neighbors, not police, not HOA. Do you understand?" I understood perfectly. My daughter wasn't coming home to grieve. She was coming home to investigate. Florida Hospital Orlando's ER entrance came into view. I abandoned my car in a fire lane. Nobody would sight me now. I sprinted through automatic doors into controlled chaos. Terrence Whitfield. My wife, they just brought her in. A nurse's expression told me what I didn't want to know. "This way, sir." The trauma bay held 12 people working on Simone with military precision, but I could see it in their eyes. They were fighting a battle already lost. The lead OB looked up from the ultrasound. met my gaze. Mr. Whitfield, we have to deliver now. The baby's in severe distress, and your wife has lost too much blood. I nodded. Words wouldn't come. Through the observation window, I watched them cut my daughter free from the only mother she'd ever know. Time of delivery, 11:41 a.m. Female infant approximately 6 pounds, APGAR score 4. The doctor's voice was clinical, detached, the tone medical professionals use when the outcome is already predetermined. Then, quieter. Mr. Whitfield, we're doing everything we can for your wife. But the abruption was catastrophic. How long between symptom onset and arrival here? I checked my phone. The timestamp on Simone's first call, 10:47. Hospital arrival, 11:23. 36 minutes, I whispered. The doctor closed his eyes. With placental abruption, every minute after 20 is critical. I'm sorry. They worked on Simone for 11 more minutes. Transfusions, resuscitation attempts, everything modern medicine could offer. At 11:52 a.m., 35 minutes after my confrontation with Darlene Richter, Simone died. A nurse approached as they wheeled Simone's body out. Mr. Whitfield, your daughter is stable and in the NICU. You can see her whenever you're ready. I nodded, unable to look at the infant who would never know her mother. My phone buzzed. Naomi's text. Dad, I'm getting on a plane. Don't talk to anyone about what happened. Not neighbors, not police, not HOA. I'm handling this. Do you understand? I understood perfectly. My daughter wasn't coming home to grieve. She was coming home to investigate. If someone's interference directly caused the death of your spouse, what would you do? Seek legal justice. Take matters into your own hands. Walk away and grieve. Tell me honestly what you'd choose in that moment. When my daughter walked into Florida Hospital's family consultation room 6 hours after her stepmother's death, she wasn't Naomi, the grieving family member. She was Special Agent in Charge Whitfield. And someone was about to learn the difference. Naomi arrived from D.C. at 6:15 p.m. Chartered emergency flight. First stop, NICU, to meet her baby sister. I watched through the glass as she stood over the incubator, one hand pressed against the plastic barrier. Her jaw tight, eyes wet but controlled. Second stop, hospital administrator's office. She demanded all medical records. The administrator started to object. Naomi flashed her FBI credentials. He stopped objecting. Third stop, the family consultation room where I sat, numb and broken. Naomi looked like me. Same dark eyes, same sharp jawline, same refusal to show weakness. But she had her mother's discipline and focus. When she walked into that consultation room, she didn't hug me first. She didn't cry. She placed her briefcase on the table, pulled out a legal pad, and said 3 words that would change everything. Tell me everything. Not I'm sorry, not are you okay? Just tell me everything. Because that's what you do when someone kills your family. You build a case. For the next hour, I recounted every detail. The phone call, the race home, Darlene in my driveway, the 14-minute obstruction, Simone's death. Naomi's pen never stopped moving. Recording, documenting, building a timeline. Dad, I need you to understand something. Her pen hovered over her notepad. What happened today wasn't an HOA violation dispute. It was involuntary manslaughter at minimum, possibly reckless endangerment, definitely wrongful death. She paused, met my eyes. Darlene Richter interfered with emergency medical care, filed a false police report, and caused a death through her actions. I'm going to destroy her. But I need to know. Can you handle what that means? National media? Criminal trials? Your life dissected in court? I thought about Simone dying on our lawn while Darlene called a tow truck. Burn it all down, I said. Naomi nodded. HOA corruption falls under federal jurisdiction when mail or wire fraud is involved. Violation notices sent through mail. Fines collected electronically. That's federal. Pattern of civil rights violations. That's federal. RICO predicate acts, if financial misconduct exists. That's federal. She pulled out her phone. I can't personally investigate due to conflict of interest, but I can authorize someone who can. Orlando's Public Corruption Task Force, my task force, has been monitoring HOA complaints. This case gives us the high-profile entry point we've needed. If your family member had the power to investigate the person who killed your loved one, would you want them to use it? Or would you worry about conflict of interest? Where's the line between justice and revenge? Naomi made one call. Speaker on so I could hear. Agent Chen, this is Whitfield. I need you to open a case file under public corruption. Subject, Darlene Richter, HOA President. Incident, interference with medical emergency resulting in death. I'm recused due to family connection, but I'm authorizing full investigation. She paused. Start with security footage canvas. Ring doorbells, traffic cameras, neighbor recordings. I want every second of today documented. She hung up and looked at me. Now we wait. And Dad? Don't go home tonight. Stay here with the baby. Because once this starts, Cypress Grove Estates is going to become a crime scene. 300 people came to Simone's funeral on Tuesday. Neighbors, colleagues, family from 3 states. Everyone except the one person who should have been on her knees begging forgiveness. Darlene Richter didn't think she'd done anything wrong. First Baptist Church of Orlando overflowed with mourners. I barely remember walking down the aisle. Barely remember the pastor's words about God's mysterious ways. I was medicated just to get through the service without collapsing. Baby Hope was still in the NICU, unable to attend her mother's funeral. My daughter would never know Simone's voice, never feel her arms, never hear her laugh. Simone's sister gave the eulogy. Her voice cracked when she mentioned the preventable delay. She didn't name Darlene. She didn't have to. Everyone from Cypress Grove Estates knew. Naomi sat rigid in the front row, FBI colleagues flanking her. I recognized the look on her face. Cold calculation. She wasn't grieving in this moment. She was planning. After the service, neighbors approached with whispered confessions. Terrence, I'm so sorry. Janet Torres grabbed my hand, tears streaming. Darlene's been telling people you assaulted her, that you caused this by parking illegally. Another neighbor leaned close. She filed an official HOA complaint against you. For that day. My blood went cold. What? The violation notice arrived at your house yesterday. $500 for aggressive behavior toward a board member. She was billing me for the day she killed my wife. 3 more neighbors pulled Naomi aside during the reception. I watched from across the room as they handed her documents. Folders thick with papers. Naomi's expression never changed, but her eyes sharpened. Have you ever watched someone double down on cruelty instead of showing remorse? What does it take for a person to attend a funeral? Wait, she didn't even attend. What kind of person bills a widower for the day his wife died? As mourners filed out, I saw Naomi in the parking lot with 3 FBI agents. A woman I recognized from HOA meetings held a thick manila folder. So, you're telling me Darlene has targeted 17 families in 6 years? Naomi's voice carried across the lot. And you've been documenting everything? The woman nodded. Everything. Dates, amounts, violations, witnesses. I knew someone would eventually stop her. Naomi took the folder. Her voice dropped low, but I caught the last words. This investigation just became a RICO case. By Friday, 3 days after Simone's funeral, federal agents had collected enough evidence to fill 3 case boxes, and Darlene Richter still had no idea her world was about to collapse. FBI agents canvassed Cypress Grove Estates under the cover of a community safety investigation. 19 homeowners came forward with complaints spanning 6 years. But the real breakthrough came from something Darlene never considered. Ring doorbells, security cameras, Tesla dash cams. 8 different homes captured the confrontation from 8 different angles. Agent Chen called it the most documented manslaughter in Florida history. I sat in the FBI field office watching the footage play on multiple screens, synchronized, every angle showing the same nightmare. 11:03 by 17, my Mercedes screeches into the driveway. 11:3:42, Darlene intercepts me. 25 seconds. 11:04:15, first mention of emergency. 33 seconds later. 11:06:30, Darlene calls 911. 2 minutes 13 seconds after my arrival. But the most damning evidence came from Darlene's own Ring doorbell. The footage showed her watching from her window, seeing my car approach, then deliberately walking to my driveway before I arrived. She was waiting for me. Agent Chen, can you enhance the audio from timestamp 11:01:45? Naomi stood behind him, arms crossed. Chen isolated the audio, played it through speakers. Darlene's voice, clear as day, on the phone with another board member. He's coming now. This should be good. Watch this. The room went silent. She was excited, I whispered. She was looking forward to this. Chen nodded grimly. Premeditation. She didn't stumble onto a violation. She orchestrated a confrontation. The audio enhancement got worse. 37 separate pleas from me. Please, my wife is dying. This is an emergency. I'm begging you. 0 expressions of concern from Darlene, and at timestamp 11:07:03, something that made my stomach turn. A laugh, quiet but unmistakable. Medical examiner confirmed the timeline, Agent Chen said, pulling up another document. If transport began at 11:05, Simone's survival probability was 60 to 70%. By 11:17, it dropped to 15%. He looked at me. Those 14 minutes weren't just delay, they were the cause of death. HOA financial records arrived via subpoena that afternoon. Naomi and Chen spread them across the conference table. $340,000 in violation enforcement fees over 6 years, Chen said. The bylaws cap annual operating expenses at $180,000. Where did the extra money go? He clicked to another screen. DR Property Management. Registered to Darlene Richter. She's been paying herself $2,500 monthly for violation documentation services. Embezzlement, Naomi said flatly. Wire fraud, mail fraud, federal jurisdiction. Chen pulled up more records. It gets worse. She has kickback arrangements with landscaping contractors. They overcharge residents, split the extra with Darlene. When corruption runs this deep, who do you trust? The police who responded to false reports? The board members who claimed they didn't know? The neighbors who stayed silent? Tell me who you'd hold accountable beyond just Darlene. My phone buzzed. Text from Robert Chen, the board member who'd asked for my evidence binder. Emergency board meeting Monday. Darlene doesn't know yet. Bring your attorney. Attached was a forward. Darlene's resignation letter template, already drafted and waiting for signatures. The board had chosen a side. Darlene Richter woke up Monday at 5:53 a.m. to prepare for her weekly HOA violation patrol. She never made it past her driveway. At 6:04 a.m., 6 FBI agents knocked on her door with a search warrant. Her entire world shattered in the next 11 minutes. I watched from my home office window 3 houses away. Couldn't sleep anyway. Baby Hope was with Simone's sister for the morning. The FBI doesn't knock politely. Their announcement shook windows. Darlene opened her door in a bathrobe, coffee mug in hand. Froze when she saw the windbreakers with yellow FBI letters across the back. 6 agents filed past her into her home. Within minutes, they were carrying out boxes. HOA Financial Records 2019 to 2025. Violation documentation. Evidence bags filled with computers, phones, filing cabinets. News helicopters arrived by 6:45 a.m. Someone had tipped the media. Anonymous source, of course. Neighbors emerged from homes in pajamas, phones recording. The woman who terrorized them for 6 years was finally facing consequences. Live news coverage. Federal raid at Orlando HOA after woman's death. Agent Chen stood in Darlene's driveway, reading the warrant aloud for cameras. His voice carried across the morning air. Federal search warrant authorized for the residence and HOA office of Darlene Richter. Subject of investigation into mail fraud, wire fraud, embezzlement, civil rights violations, and involuntary manslaughter in connection with the death of Simone Whitfield on November 6, 2025. Darlene's voice cut through, shrill, desperate. This is persecution. That man assaulted me and now he's using his FBI daughter to... Chen didn't look up from the warrant. Ma'am, Special Agent in Charge Whitfield is recused from this investigation due to conflict of interest. This warrant was authorized by a federal judge based on evidence collected by my team. He finally met her eyes. You have the right to remain silent. I suggest you use it. They found worse than expected. Cash boxes in her home office, $23,000 in violation fine payments. Cash only, no paper trail. A second laptop labeled personal with financial records showing actual payment destinations. Safe contents included property deeds, deleted Ring doorbell footage backups, and handwritten ledgers showing real versus reported HOA income. By 8 p.m., every major Florida news outlet was covering the story. National pickup by evening news followed. HOA president under federal investigation after woman's death. Pregnant woman dies after HOA dispute delays emergency care. Social media exploded. Harsh justice for Simone trending in Orlando. Darlene's attorney did a press conference by noon. Expensive suit. Polished talking points. Denied all wrongdoing. He looked confident. When you watch someone who abused power finally face consequences, does it feel like justice? Or do you feel like it's just the beginning? Tell me what real accountability looks like. My phone buzzed at 8 p.m. Naomi's text made my hands shake. Agent Chen just opened her personal laptop. Dad, she kept a spreadsheet called Problem Homeowners with your name at the top. Next to Simone's due date, she wrote, Perfect timing for violation escalation. Another text followed immediately. She was planning to target you because your wife was about to give birth. Premeditation. We have her. Darlene Richter's attorney told her not to talk to media, not to post on social media, not to discuss the case publicly. She ignored all of it. Wednesday, 2 days after the raid, she appeared on Channel 9 News for an interview. Her attorney nearly had a stroke when he found out. But Darlene was convinced she could explain her way out of federal charges. She wanted to tell her side. I made myself watch. Simone would have wanted me to witness the moment Darlene destroyed herself. News anchor Karen Rodriguez sat across from Darlene in the studio. Professional, neutral expression. But I could see the judgment in her eyes. Ms. Richter, do you feel any responsibility for Mrs. Whitfield's death? Darlene straightened in her chair. That familiar rigid posture I'd seen in my driveway. I feel sympathy for their loss, but responsibility? No. I was enforcing community standards that everyone agreed to. Mr. Whitfield chose to park illegally. He chose to be confrontational. Those were his choices, not mine. The anchor's expression shifted. Subtle but clear. You're a monster. But Ms. Richter, his wife was in labor. Didn't that constitute an emergency exception? Our bylaws don't have emergency exceptions. Darlene's voice was matter-of-fact, clinical. If we made exceptions for every emotional situation, we wouldn't have enforceable rules. Besides, if it was truly an emergency, he should have called an ambulance instead of trying to drive her himself. She leaned forward slightly. That's not my responsibility to manage. The anchor went silent. 3 seconds of dead air. An eternity on live television. Are you saying this was his fault? I'm saying we all have to follow rules, even when it's inconvenient. The interview's most damaging moment came 12 minutes in. Ms. Richter, you heard Mrs. Whitfield screaming from inside the house, correct? I heard sounds, but I couldn't determine. You have nursing training, don't you? From 1985? Darlene hesitated. I was a licensed practical nurse for 3 years, but that was... So, you would recognize sounds of medical distress? Possibly, but... The FBI's audio enhancement captured you laughing at timestamp 11:07:03. What was funny about a woman dying? Darlene's face flushed. I didn't laugh. That was a cough, or... The audio forensics expert testified it was a laugh. Were they lying? I don't remember laughing. The anchor leaned forward. You don't remember? Or you don't want to admit you found pleasure in obstructing a dying woman? I was doing my job. Darlene's composure cracked. If people would just follow simple rules, none of this would have happened. Have you ever watched someone talk themselves into prison? What possesses a person to go on TV and double down on the worst moment of their life? Tell me about the most self-destructive thing you've seen someone do. The interview ended at 6:47 p.m. By 6:52, the HOA's insurance company called an emergency meeting. By 7:15, they issued a statement. Upon review of Ms. Richter's actions and statements, we are denying coverage for any claims arising from the November 6th incident due to willful misconduct exclusion. Darlene had just lost her liability shield. Everything she owned, her house, her retirement accounts, her husband's pension, was now on the table. Naomi called at 7:30 p.m. Dad, her insurance just dropped her, and the prosecutor upgraded charges to voluntary manslaughter. That interview proved malice. Voluntary manslaughter, not involuntary. The difference was intent. The interview had proven Darlene knew exactly what she was doing, and she'd enjoyed it. The emergency HOA board meeting was scheduled for 7 p.m. Thursday. By 7:45, Darlene Richter's 6-year reign as neighborhood dictator ended with a unanimous vote she never saw coming. The community center hadn't been this packed since the 4th of July barbecue 3 years ago. But tonight wasn't a celebration. It was a reckoning. Standing room only. 180 residents. News cameras in the back. Darlene walked in at 6:58 wearing a navy blazer and her HOA president badge, still believing she controlled this room. By 7:02, Robert Chen had seized the gavel and her face went pale. This emergency meeting of the Cypress Grove Estates HOA board is called to order. Chen's voice cut through the murmurs. First item, removal of officer for cause. Darlene tried to interrupt. This meeting is out of... You are not recognized. Chen's voice was steel. You will have your opportunity to speak when called upon. Sit down. 3 former victims testified. Janet Torres spoke about the fire department delay. Michael Chen described being forced to sell his home after violations reached $18,000. David Thompson, a veteran, recounted being fined for displaying an American flag. Then Robert Chen presented the financial audit. $437,000 in questionable transactions over 6 years. Unauthorized payments to Ms. Richter's personal company. Vendor kickbacks. Embezzled HOA funds. And these are just the irregularities we've found so far. He looked directly at Darlene. This isn't about one tragic day. This is about 6 years of systematic abuse. Darlene's attorney objected. My client has immunity as an HOA officer. Chen cut him off. Florida Statute 720-303 clearly states that immunity doesn't cover willful misconduct. And federal prosecutors have already established a pattern of willful misconduct. The vote was called. Motion to remove Darlene Richter from all HOA positions, immediately, pending criminal and civil proceedings. All in favor? 6 hands rose. Every board member except Darlene. Motion carries 6-0. Applause erupted. Chen pounded the gavel for order. But they weren't done. Second vote, authorize criminal referral to district attorney, 6-0. Third vote, demand restitution of $437,000 within 30 days, 6-0. Fourth vote, rescind all violations issued under Darlene's tenure pending review, 6-0. Darlene stood, gathering her belongings. Face white, hands shaking. You can't do this. That's $340,000 in collections. Robert Chen's smile was cold. Correction, that's $340,000 you may have to personally refund. Your motion to adjourn is recognized. Outside, news cameras surrounded Darlene. One reporter asked the question everyone wanted answered. How does it feel to lose everything? For the first time in 6 years, Darlene Richter was speechless. If you had the power to vote out someone who terrorized your community for years, how would it feel? Is removing them from power enough? Or do you need to see criminal consequences too? Tell me where justice begins for you. My phone buzzed as I watched the coverage from home. Text from Robert Chen. Board voted to pursue her personally for all refunds. We're filing a lien against her house tomorrow. She'll have to sell to pay back what she stole. Justice was moving fast, but it wasn't moving fast enough. Within 72 hours of Darlene's removal, 89 homeowners filed for fine refunds. The new acting board president, Robert Chen, discovered that every single one had legitimate grounds for reversal. I attended the first open records review meeting. Baby Hope in my arms, 8 weeks old now, gaining weight, thriving despite never knowing her mother. The HOA office conference room looked like a legal clinic. Homeowners lined up with folders of violation notices, some dating back 6 years. Robert Chen and 2 volunteer attorneys reviewed each case with methodical precision. Improper notice. Refund approved. Rule doesn't exist in bylaws. Refund approved. Fine exceeds statutory maximum. Refund approved. One elderly couple broke down crying when told they'd receive $7,800 back. We took out a loan to pay those fines, the husband said, voice shaking. Darlene told us we'd lose our home if we didn't pay within 30 days. Robert Chen's jaw tightened. She lied. And you'll have your money back within 90 days. I'm sorry this happened to you. The most gut-wrenching moment came when Ashley Rodriguez stood before the board. Single mother. 8-year-old daughter beside her. Ms. Richter fined me $3,200 because my daughter's bicycle was visible from the street. She said children's toys violated aesthetic standards. Her voice broke. I worked double shifts for 4 months to pay those fines. I missed my daughter's 3rd-grade play, her birthday party, bedtime stories, and now you're telling me the rule didn't even exist? Robert Chen nodded, eyes wet. The rule didn't exist. The fine was illegal, and we're going to make this right. Silence filled the room. Then someone started clapping. Within seconds, everyone was standing. The board voted to refund $284,000 to 89 families. Payment plan, 90 days. But there was a problem. HOA accounts only held $127,000 after Darlene's embezzlement. The shortfall, $157,000. Robert Chen's solution was simple. We pursue Darlene Richter personally for the difference. Civil lawsuit. Lien against her home. She stole this money. She pays it back. The vote was unanimous. When a toxic leader is removed, how does a community rebuild trust? What reforms would you demand in your HOA to prevent this kind of abuse? Tell me what real accountability looks like in your neighborhood. Friday afternoon, a for sale sign appeared in Darlene's yard. By Monday, she'd accepted an offer $45,000 below market value. Desperate sellers make bad deals. The FBI's audiovisual team spent 3 weeks enhancing the security footage from November 6th. What they found was worse than anyone imagined. March 8th, federal courthouse, pre-trial hearing. I sat in the gallery with Naomi beside me. Agent Chen at the prosecutor's table. 8 screens mounted on the courtroom wall, each showing a different camera angle. Chen controlled the playback. November 6th, 10:59 a.m. Subject Richter's Ring doorbell shows her looking out her front window. The footage showed Darlene's face through her glass door, watching the street, waiting. At 11:03:17, subject exits her home with clipboard and phone, walking toward the Whitfield driveway. The timestamp showed my car still 200 yards away. She was waiting for him, Chen said. This was premeditated obstruction. Then came the audio enhancement, every word crystal clear. My voice, I need to get inside. My wife is in labor. Darlene, you're parked illegally. Section 4.7. This is an emergency. She's in pain. Then you should have planned better. Move your vehicle now. Are you serious? My wife is dying. Don't be dramatic. Labor takes hours. Move your vehicle. The courtroom heard my desperation, heard Simone's screams in the background, heard Darlene's cold dismissal of a medical emergency. Then the moment that made the prosecutor smile. Audio timestamp 11:07:03. A laugh, quiet but unmistakable. Darlene had laughed while my wife died. Defense attorney's motion to exclude this footage? The judge asked. Denied. Legally obtained from multiple independent sources. Motion to exclude audio enhancement? Denied. Standard FBI forensic procedure. Darlene's attorney stood, face pale. Your Honor, we request a recess to discuss plea negotiations. The judge looked over her glasses. The state's plea offer expired 2 weeks ago. Trial date stands, March 15th. Agent Chen presented the timeline reconstruction. 11:03:17. I arrive. 11:03:42. Darlene intercepts. 25 seconds. 11:06:30. She calls 911. 2 minutes, 13 seconds after my arrival. 11:14:20. I reach Simone. 11 minutes, 3 seconds. 11:17:04. Ambulance arrives. 13 minutes, 47 seconds total. Medical expert testimony synchronized with the footage. If transport began at 11:05, Mrs. Whitfield's survival probability was 60 to 70%. By 11:17, it dropped to 15%. The 14-minute delay was the direct cause of death. When you hear someone laugh while blocking emergency care, what goes through your mind? Is this criminal negligence or outright malice? Tell me where you draw the line between following rules and causing death. After the hearing, Darlene's attorney requested immediate conference with prosecutors. 30 minutes later, they emerged. The prosecutor approached us. She rejected the plea. Again, she's insisting on trial because, and I quote, she was doing her job correctly and won't plead guilty to doing the right thing. Naomi closed her eyes. She's going to trial? She's going to prison, the prosecutor corrected. And after the jury sees that footage, she's never getting out. March 15th arrived with national media trucks surrounding the Orange County Courthouse. The trial that would define HOA accountability in America was about to begin. State of Florida versus Darlene Richter. 6 charges. Faces of national coverage. My story, Simone's story, had become the rallying cry for HOA reform across the country. Jury selection took 3 days. 7 women, 5 men, diverse ages and backgrounds. Prosecutor Rachel Martinez opened with devastating simplicity. This is about a woman who valued power over human life. For 14 minutes, Darlene Richter had the choice to show mercy. For 14 minutes, she chose cruelty. Simone Whitfield paid with her life. A baby girl will grow up without her mother. And the defendant? She still insists she did nothing wrong. The first week brought medical testimony. Dr. Patricia Holmes, the medical examiner, held up the timeline chart. Placental abruption is a race against time. From symptom onset to delivery, you have 15 to 20 minutes before maternal death becomes likely. Mrs. Whitfield called her husband at 10:47. He arrived at 11:03, 16 minutes, well within the survival window. She paused. Let that sink in. But he didn't reach her until 11:14. The ambulance didn't arrive until 11:17. By then, she'd been hemorrhaging for 30 minutes. The delay didn't just contribute to her death. The delay was her death. 3 jurors were crying. The second week brought FBI financial evidence. Agent Chen walked the jury through 6 years of systematic theft. Over 6 years, Ms. Richter embezzled $437,000 from the HOA. She used community funds to pay herself for violation enforcement, essentially billing the neighborhood to harass her neighbors. He clicked to the next slide. The irony: the violation that killed Mrs. Whitfield doesn't exist in the bylaws. Section 4.7 addresses mailbox colors, not parking. Ms. Richter fabricated the violation. Week 3 brought victim testimony. Janet Torres recounted the fire department delay. When my kitchen caught fire, Darlene blocked the fire trucks for 8 minutes. 8 minutes. My daughter was inside that house. Her voice strengthened. When I confronted Darlene afterward, she said, and I'll never forget this: next time, make sure emergency services review our parking regulations before responding. She fined me $2,000 for creating a scene. She looked directly at Darlene. Now I know she did the same thing to Mrs. Whitfield. Except Mrs. Whitfield died. But the defense had one last card to play. Against her attorney's strident advice, Darlene insisted on testifying. She believed she could explain her actions, win jury sympathy. Direct examination went reasonably well. Practiced, scripted. Cross-examination destroyed her. Prosecutor Martinez approached the witness stand. Ms. Richter, you heard Mr. Whitfield say his wife was in labor, correct? Yes, but yes or no, please. Yes. You heard him say it was an emergency? He said that, yes. You heard Mrs. Whitfield screaming from inside the house. Darlene hesitated. I heard sounds, but I couldn't determine. You have nursing training from 1985, correct? I was a licensed practical nurse for 3 years, but... So you would recognize sounds of medical distress? Long pause. Possibly. Martinez moved in for the kill. Ms. Richter, on the enhanced audio, we hear you laugh at timestamp 11:07:03. What was funny? I didn't laugh. That was a cough. The audio forensics expert testified it was a laugh. Were they lying? I don't remember laughing. You don't remember? Or you don't want to admit you found pleasure in obstructing a dying woman? Objection. The defense attorney jumped up. Sustained. Rephrase. Martinez didn't miss a beat. Ms. Richter, at any point during those 14 minutes, did you consider moving out of the way? I was enforcing community standards. If I made exceptions, did you consider that Mrs. Whitfield might die? Long, damning pause. I thought he was exaggerating. People exaggerate emergencies to avoid consequences. So you thought a woman screaming in labor pain was faking it? I didn't say that. You just testified you thought he was exaggerating the emergency. Were you wrong? Trapped. Yes. And your error in judgment killed Simone Whitfield, didn't it? Darlene's composure shattered. That's not fair. I was following the rules. Martinez looked at the jury. No further questions. If you were on that jury, having heard all the evidence, seen the footage, heard her testimony, would you vote to convict? Or would you buy the argument that she was just doing her job? Tell me what justice demands. The jury deliberated 11 hours over 2 days. March 28th at 2:17 p.m. Verdict reached. I sat in the front row. Baby Hope sleeping in my arms. 4 months old now. Simone's daughter would hear this moment even if she couldn't understand it. The jury filed in. Not one looked at Darlene. Every trial lawyer knows what that means. The foreperson stood, verdict form in hand. The courtroom held its breath. In the matter of the state of Florida versus Darlene Richter, on the charge of involuntary manslaughter, how do you find? We find the defendant guilty. Darlene gasped. Her attorney grabbed her arm as she started to stand. The foreperson continued. On the charge of wire fraud, guilty. Mail fraud, guilty. Embezzlement, guilty. Filing a false police report, guilty. Civil rights violations, guilty. 6 times guilty. 6 charges. 6 nails in the coffin of her freedom. Behind me, someone whispered, "Thank God." I held hope tighter and thought, finally. Darlene was taken into custody immediately. No bail pending sentencing. 4 weeks later, the sentencing hearing brought us back to the same courtroom. Victim impact statements. My turn to speak. I stood at the podium with a photo of Simone, 8 months pregnant, glowing with life. Your Honor, my wife died begging for help while someone who swore to serve our community called police instead of showing mercy. My voice broke. I looked down at Hope in Naomi's arms. Our daughter will never know her mother's voice, never feel her arms, never hear her laugh. Because Darlene Richter decided that Section 4.7 of an HOA bylaw, a section that doesn't even address parking, was more important than human life. I looked directly at Darlene. You had 14 chances to do the right thing, 14 minutes to show compassion. You chose cruelty every single second. I paused. I hope you spend the rest of your life understanding what you took from us. Janet Torres spoke next. This wasn't one bad day. This was who Darlene Richter is. My house fire, the Whitfield tragedy. These aren't isolated incidents. They're her pattern. She should never have authority over another human being again. Ever. Judge Patricia Reeves removed her glasses, looked directly at Darlene. Ms. Karen, Richter, this court has presided over many difficult cases, but few have demonstrated such callous disregard for human life combined with complete absence of remorse. Her voice was measured, firm. You were in a position of trust, a volunteer leader meant to serve your community. Instead, you abused that trust for personal gain and personal satisfaction. The evidence shows you embezzled funds, harassed residents, and on November 6th, you deliberately obstructed emergency care, resulting in Simone Whitfield's death. The judge paused. Even now, you show no genuine remorse, only anger that you were caught. The sentence came down like a hammer. Count 1, involuntary manslaughter, 15 years Florida State Prison. Count 2, wire fraud, 5 years concurrent. Count 3, mail fraud, 5 years concurrent. Count 4, embezzlement, 7 years consecutive. Count 5, false police report, 1 year concurrent. Count 6, civil rights violations, 3 years concurrent. Total, 22 years imprisonment. Mandatory 85% served, 18.7 years minimum. Additional penalties followed. Restitution, $437,000 to HOA for embezzlement. Restitution, $284,000 to homeowners for improper fines. Permanent ban from any HOA board or leadership position. All assets seized to satisfy restitution obligations. Judge Reeves delivered her final words. Ms. Richter, you will be 82 years old when you're eligible for release. You will spend the remainder of your productive years in prison. That is not revenge, it is consequence. She leaned forward. You chose power over compassion, rules over mercy, cruelty over kindness. Society must be protected from individuals who abuse authority with such callous disregard for human life. The gavel came down. Bailiff, remand the defendant into custody. Darlene's breakdown was immediate. Screaming, crying, being physically supported by bailiffs. Her final words before being led away echoed through the courtroom. This isn't justice. I was following the rules. She still didn't understand. 22 years for enforcing HOA rules that killed someone. Is that justice or revenge? Too harsh or not harsh enough? Tell me what sentence you think fits the crime. Outside the courthouse, reporters surrounded me with microphones. Mr. Whitfield, how do you feel about the sentence? I looked down at Hope, then at the cameras. 22 years won't bring Simone back. It won't give my daughter her mother. But it sends a message. HOA boards are not above the law. Power without compassion is tyranny, and tyranny has consequences. That soundbite went viral within an hour. By evening, 3 state legislators had contacted me about HOA reform bills they were drafting. Simone's death was becoming the catalyst for change she never got to see. 1 year after Simone's death, I stood in the Florida State Capitol building watching Governor Martinez sign Simone's Law, legislation that would protect millions of homeowners from the kind of tyranny that killed my wife. The Capitol rotunda was packed. Homeowner advocates, legislators, media, people who'd survived their own HOA nightmares. I held Hope, 13 months old now, walking unsteadily, babbling happily, oblivious to the significance. Governor Martinez sat at a ceremonial desk with a dozen pens. Simone Whitfield should be here celebrating her daughter's first birthday. Instead, we're here because a system designed to protect property values was weaponized to destroy human lives. She lifted the first pen. That ends today. With this signature, Florida becomes the first state to criminalize HOA interference with emergency services. No more Simones, no more preventable deaths. This is her legacy. They asked me to say a few words after the signing. I stood at the podium with hope on my hip, looking at the crowd of survivors, people who'd lost homes, savings, dignity to HOA tyranny. Simone believed in community, real community, not the authoritarian nightmare Darlene Richter created. She believed neighbors should support each other, not terrorize each other. I held up the pen the governor gave me. This law is what Simone would have wanted. Not revenge, change, protection for families like ours, and accountability for anyone who abuses power. Hope grabbed the microphone. Everyone laughed. She wants to speak too, I said. And when she's old enough, she'll know her mother's death meant something. It changed things. That's legacy. Simone's law included critical provisions, criminal charges, minimum 5 years, for anyone who interferes with emergency medical care for HOA compliance purposes. Mandatory financial transparency, quarterly reports, annual independent audits, fine limitations, maximum $100, 30-day notice required, emergency exceptions, medical emergencies exempt from all HOA rules, homeowner Bill of Rights, right to appeal, right to legal representation, protection from retaliation. Within 18 months, 17 other states passed similar legislation. The national HOA reform movement used Simone's story as its rallying point. Cypress Grove Estates became a model community under Robert Chen's leadership. Property values increased 12%. 0 violation notices issued in 8 months. 89% of residents attending community meetings. Simone's Garden was established in the community park. Hope's Playground installed nearby. A memorial plaque. In memory of Simone Whitfield, a mother taken too soon. Darlene Richter sits in Lowell Correctional Institution. Inmate number 45392. Earliest release date, May 2044, at age 82. All appeals denied. No visitors. The Simone's Legacy Fund raised $2.3 million. Provided free legal representation to 147 families fighting HOA abuse. Success rate, 89% favorable outcomes. One woman's death changed laws in 18 states. That's legacy. But it shouldn't have taken a death to create accountability. What HOA reform would you fight for in your community? Tell me what needs to change where you live. On the 1-year anniversary of Simone's death, I took Hope to the cemetery. She was walking now, unsteady but determined. We stood at Simone's headstone, black granite with her photo and new inscription, Simone Whitfield, beloved wife and mother. Her death changed everything. Hope placed flowers at the base, mimicking what I'd shown her. Mama, she said, her newest word. My heart broke and healed simultaneously. That's right, baby. That's your mama. And she's watching over you. Behind us, I heard cars pulling up. 47 families from Cypress Grove Estates, carrying flowers and candles. Janet Torres approached with tears in her eyes. We're here to honor her, Terrence, all of us. Her voice broke. She saved us. I nodded, unable to speak. They saved us all. Full circle, final CTA and closing. So let me ask you one final time. What would you do if an HOA president blocked you from saving your dying spouse? Would you have fought like I did? Or would you have given up when everyone said it was hopeless? Because that choice, between silence and action, determines whether tyranny survives or justice prevails. Here's the truth they don't teach you. Power without accountability always becomes abuse. Always. Whether it's an HOA president with a clipboard or anyone else with unchecked authority, the result is the same. Darlene Richter wasn't evil. She was enabled. For 6 years, nobody stopped her. Nobody challenged her. Nobody said, "No, this is wrong." Until Simone died. And then everything changed. That's the lesson. One person standing up can tear down an empire of injustice. But that person has to stand up first. If this story made you angry, good. Channel that anger into action. Hit that like button if you believe HOAs need federal oversight. Subscribe to this channel for more stories about ordinary people standing up to extraordinary injustice. Every week, we expose the Karens, the tyrants, the bullies who think power makes them untouchable. Drop a comment right now. Have you dealt with HOA abuse? Are you fighting corrupt board members? Tell your story. This community supports you. You're not alone. Share this video with anyone trapped in HOA hell. They need to know that justice is possible, that fighting back works. That one voice can become a chorus. And if you're on an HOA board, listen carefully. Simone's law is coming to your state. Reform now or face federal prosecution later. The choice is yours. Darlene Richter sits in prison tonight, an old woman paying for 14 minutes of cruelty. Simone Whitfield rests in Greenwood Cemetery, her legacy written in law across 18 states. And baby Hope? She's asleep in her crib, surrounded by photos of the mothers she'll never remember, but whose love changed the world. That's what happens when tragedy meets action, when grief becomes advocacy, when one family refuses to let injustice have the final word. This is Ephraim with HOA vs. Karen Stories. Remember, your property rights matter, your dignity matters, your life matters. Know your rights, stand your ground, and never, ever let a tyrant with a clipboard tell you that rules matter more than human life. Until next time, fight back, stand strong, and demand accountability. Because the next Simone Whitfield? She might be saved by the law we created from this tragedy. And that is justice.